All right, got a recording.
Cool stuff. So yeah, I just ripped a random image of the impact grenade off Google, which I think this is one off the Helldivers website. But yeah, I mean it's a pretty easy prop. I think it's just a couple of revolves or something like that. And sorry, I guess I should show because I don't think a lot of people use Onshape just because I don't think it's too well heard of. So to what you need to do when you bring a file or whatever an image in is you got to import it and then bring it into create a document and then bring it into the document. Like
So you have to attach it to a plane as like its own object.
yeah. Yeah, if you're gonna sketch off of like an existing photo, I mean you can like free draw if you want, but obviously it's more accurate if you have what you're modeling. And I know you can do this in like Blender and whatever, so it's probably a similar process to that. And so that what I normally do is I keep one sketch as just that object. That way I can hide other ones when I go through and do stuff. I think so. I'll create a new sketch and then I'll go through and kind of start tracing the perimeter.
Is
Because
on
what was that?
No, I was gonna ask, is Onshape a free program or is it something like you have to sign up for to
Yeah,
make your work?
it's a 3D program and it's free and it's web based, so you don't need to like go through and download it.
Oh, nice.
It works from the browser, which I started out using Fusion 360, which was it's I think a lot of people use it because it's got that free hobby license. But it's for when you have a cheap computer like what I first had, it's not particularly doesn't not particularly run super well. But yeah, I mean I like Onshape. It's a little quirky sometimes, but it works good.
I mean, you're making it look easy.
And then, I mean, I think this is kind of like the same general idea as doing, I mean, from what I've seen how Blender works, I think it's somewhat similar as far as like you kind of do the rough shapes and then you add the details. So, uh, but what it's kind of the way I go about it, I don't think it's a way like you would do something in industry. It's not the way I do stuff at work. But as far as like prop making goes, where you don't have like set tolerances and whatnot, I just find this works easier. And it's just like I'll go through and I'll whatever import the image in, and I'll kind of sketch everything out. So I'll trace a lot of the features that I know I can do on this one plane. So like I'll do a revolve because this whole thing's cylindrical. So I'll do a revolve using the profile, and then since I can see this angle of the trigger, and I know how the trigger is because I modeled the trigger for one of the other grenades, so I kind of have an idea of how that one already works. So I don't need the top view of it, but I'll just go through and draw that up.
Now, does it
Kind
matter that
of, what was that?
does it matter that you got like curves or anything like major in it?
Yeah, a lot of as far as I can tell, a lot of these are straight surfaces. They just have the fillets on the edge, and I'll add those fillets in once I've gone through and actually like extruded all this. I find it's easier that way because for whatever reason, Onshape doesn't like radius corners and stuff. When they interact with stuff in the sketch, I get errors occasionally. So I just try to do all that stuff afterward. But I think as far as that goes, that looks good. Then I'll go through and just sweep this whole thing. And it's also finicky because if you're doing a revolve, it doesn't like to have stuff on the other side. So like how my sketch goes on both sides of this axis. If I click this, it's not gonna like that. It's not gonna, well, actually it does, but a lot of times it doesn't like that I have something chosen on the other side of the axis.
Is it sort
Which
of like is this like mirroring?
Yeah, it's basically it's kind of mirroring, except it patterns it all the way around. in a sense, like whatever a radial shape. So you've got what is it like revolves it around a singular point. Sweep will move like if you choose like if I chose that face, I could sweep and I drew like a path for it to go. I could use sweep and it would move that one face and create whatever a path for it to go. I don't use that too much because it's not. I mean, it, it's had its places where you use it, and I don't use it all too much. And then you've got the mirror. It just mirrors it across an axis instead of rotating it all the way around. But and then with Onshape too, when you do something attached to a sketch, it hides that sketch. So I drew multiple whatever things that I want to do on the sketch. I drew multiple of them, so I'll just go through and re-show that sketch and then go through and do them. And then I'm gonna hide the other bodies while I go through and extrude out this other stuff. I'm gonna keep this in for now.
So each of these sketch one. Oh, hi.
คุณค่ะที่เช้าเป็นหัวเลยฮะที่เป็นหัวเลยไปใส่แล้วอ่า
Dominic, recording right now. If you could keep the background noise down. Thank you. Sorry, continue with what you were saying.
So there's a couple different. So when you extrude something and you want it to match up with another part, like because if I were to extrude these straight out, you can see it's going to want to go perpendicular or parallel with the surface that I extruded it from. I want it to match that profile of the revolve feature of like the main body of the frame. So I'll just go. You can either do face, which in this case this case it's not going to work because I want to extrude from whatever both sides of the thing. So like right here and right here.
Hi there.
That would work. Blur. That would work if I only wanted to extrude one of these, but since I want to extrude both, I'll just go ahead and choose up to part, click that, and click that, and you can see that it makes both of them, it makes them flush to that.
It doesn't matter if there's like an intense curve.
No, so that's what the extrude to body, it just extrudes whatever the whatever that profile that you chose from the sketch, it extrudes it up to the point where it meets that body. And that's the good thing I like about this is that or not not that I like about it, that it does is that it goes through and it will move it to if you have a big curve or something. The only bad thing is that if there's like a really big curve, it does distort that shape to match up to the curve. So it like let's say I have a line and I match it and I'm running it. Let me like if I have a line and I run it across here, well now it's going to distort it across the curved face instead of being a straight line. Now you're going to have a curved line that's running across the face. Kind of like if if you put a piece of if you're putting like a piece of vinyl on a like a dome, if you're masking off a dome, you've got to cut like little slits or bend the piece of vinyl to get it to fit because it doesn't want to move around that surface. That's kind of what this does when you extrude to a face.
Okay.
I don't know if I explained that super well, but I never said I'm a wording person. That's why I got an engineering.
That's why we're recording, so I could rewatch and finally understand.
Uh-huh. And then if I want, obviously these parts are like whatever sticking out of the actual thing. So I'll go through and just use a transform command and then move it over to translate by XYZ, which lets me just move it based on like a coordinate system, or it's got this little thing that I can like move it around up here. And so I'll just kind of like eyeball it. I mean, to me, it looks like that's out. Just because of the shadow, it looks like it's out. Kind of like that much. You can also if you're doing like planar, there's an offset from where is it? Offset surface. You can click that and offset a surface for that. I don't use that too much because then you have to go through and loft between that surface and the other one. So that's just like an extra step. I don't really use that too much, but it's good if you're doing kind of like weird looking parts. And then you can see that on the part there's a little radius on that. So I'm just gonna go through and add that. 1. That's a little too much. 105. Okay, looks about right. So that's that. And then it's got that little button. Well, I guess it's the impact, so it's not a button. Just do that exactly what I just did. Whatever, extrude to part.
Now, when a model like this gets printed, will those objects actually appear inside the model itself? Like there will be like
They won't. They won't because there's this feature right here called Boolean, or I don't know how you say it. It's probably some French word or something that fuses all parts together. Um, but what I want to do is I want to keep these as individual features or individual parts right now. Technically, you could extrude them. When you extrude, you have the option for new, add, remove, or intersect. I normally do new. That way, it creates a separate body. You can do add, which fuses it to the body. But because this is circular, this feature shows up on like what are all quadrants of this part. Like you can see it shows up on whatever on the little corners and stuff. That's the next thing I want to do is do a circular pattern. Which lets me choose these features and then choose an axis. So in this case, it's just going to be the fact that this is a round shape. I'll just choose that, and you'll go through. Now this show up on all quadrants of it. So you've got the 8 buttons that are on it. Then
wait, what was that feature called again?
It's called circular pattern, and when you open up in default, you have linear pattern, but if you click the drop down, you've got circular pattern and curve pattern. Circular lets you choose an axis. If you choose curve, what you could do is you could draw a curve with a sketch. Like there's this command in Sketch called spline that just like lets you free form. That's it. If you're doing the curve, you can free form and then uh whatever, like draw one object at the start and then click the curve and you'll curve it up. So I've done that before for like replicating wires or something, because I'll make a circle on one end and then I'll pattern it up and then loft it between, and that makes like a kind of like a wiry looking shape. I think I did that. I made like a thing. I've only used that one a couple of times. I made like a what was it? The Batman grenade launcher from the Robert Patterson, the Batman 2022 or something like that. Someone wanted the grenade launcher thingy, and it has like wires and stuff, so I did that for that. Let's see here. What else we got? I guess there's one button on the bottom that I missed in that initial sketch. Actually, that's going to be. What you can also do is, instead of sketching on the 3 planes that are shown, you can make a sketch off of a flat surface on the part. So I want to make a sketch off of this, and then go through and draw up the whatever, the detonator or whatever that's on the bottom. And there's a feature in sketching called user project, and so you can actually grab or whatever, import lines from the whatever the thing that you're modeling from. In this case, I'm going to grab the cylinder that we drew up there so that I can copy that exact, but whatever, just redraw it down here. And so I'll just do the center point of the center point, go out to here, and do the same thing for right there. And just extrude. Actually, let me see how far I moved my transform. 1, and no, wait. Okay, I'll just extrude that one. 0.08. And you can, so what I'm about to do is I'm going to grab these fillets that I did. I'm going to move them to the end of the timeline so that I can go through and grab the grab the fillet and add this part to that same fillet command. I could have just waited to do the fillet until afterward, but I did not think about that. Let's see, extrude that one by this point. Yeah, okay. Gotta fill it down there. That's not what So now we've got that button on the bottom and buttons on the sides. So I think maybe pull up an image of it. I think that's all for the sides. I think we just need the button part. Nope. Okay, cool. And of course, about a million files of it. Yeah, that's got all the detail that there is on the sides. So now it's just for the press release on the top. So I drew out. So when we did the radius, I had that, or not the radius, the initial sketch. Had the button out, and so when I did the revolution pattern up top, it drew out that button that's on the top of it. So I'll just use that as a reference point for starting everything. Just gonna hide that all real quick. Grab this stuff. Now, rats. Actually, I might just redo a sketch. Might be easier that way. When you're doing sketch, you can actually grab, like if you have another sketch open beneath it, you can interact with the lines from the sketch, which I think is pretty neat because I don't recall Fusion 360 or Solid Edge might have that feature, and I don't think SolidWorks has that feature. So I think it's a pretty handy feature as far as this goes.
So just in case you need to add more detail later, you can do like a secondary sketch.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, you could do. I think any program lets you do a secondary sketch, but on Onshape, you can have another sketch of like showing through, but you can also grab stuff off that sketch. So in this case, I drew these features on that first sketch, or I guess sketch 2, but then I can go through on another sketch and interact with the lines that I drew on it. So I basically just went through and copied all this stuff that I drew on that first one, and I'll just see. Just extrude. Should be extruding from midpoint. Just extrude that all out. And I think I'm gonna nope that way. And then I'm gonna go through and use the mirror command, and you can use the mirror and then change it from part to feature. Feature lets you choose any of the features that you just made. So I'm gonna choose that extrude we just did and just mirror that extrude, click reapply feature, and that extrudes that out. And then I'll extrude this jazz. Let's see that right there too. Extrude that out. That goes to about. I'm just gonna kind of eyeball that to right there. Actually, I'll choose up to. I think up to face would let me choose this right here. No, I think up to vertex. Yeah, there we go. So up to vertex is gonna send it. Is up to vertex is gonna send that extrude up to the point. You can see it lines up with that point that I just picked, and that's gonna be right there. Which I think that looks like that goes to right there. So I'll extrude that to that, and then I'm gonna go through and extrude that little button looking thingy. Actually, that looks like it goes all the way to the top, but we can modify that. And a lot of the times, instead of giving this stuff, like you can see up here, it has a depth measurement. Instead of going through and like typing a command, I'll just drag this bar and kind of eyeball it. Choose those. Two. that face.
And these are all saved as separate objects every single time you extrude or like mirror.
No, so a lot of these extrudes that I've just done, these are all the add feature, so it's just adding it to the body. Right now, I mean, you can see it's got all these 17 parts. Most of these parts are just whatever the cylinders. I could actually go through and uh, fuse them all right now because I don't need them separate. But I'll do that in a second because I think I might split this in half and add like a hole for a dowel or something in it. But okay, so now what I'm gonna do is review, and this is probably not the best way to do this, but without going back through and redoing that sketch, I think this is about what I'm gonna do. You can see that right now the top part's gonna fuse with that button, and I don't think that's how it's supposed to be, so I'm just gonna go through and change that real quick. Da-da-da. And if you are drawing on a sketch, you can hover over a point and it will lock onto that point. You can see it makes that yellow lock,
Mm.
which uh is good when you're trying to whatever make stuff. It's like whatever fits in that what I don't however that words. Like that way whatever the line is at the same point as that line. All right, so let's see. So we can go through and I'm gonna extrude that section down. One. This is going to be the remove command. So you see it removed. And I know it's a little hard to see. It removed that material from there. And then what I'll do, reactivate that sketch. Go through. Do the same thing to right here. Actually, let me open that up. When you're doing a remove command, most of the time, if you're doing it on the same part, it'll default to just doing it to that part. However, if you go down here, there's this thing called merge scope, and that lets you choose the parts that it actually does that extrudes that material from. So like if this sketch were to go further, technically it would interact with that part right here. If I wanted it to interact, I could click this merge scope and click that part. Obviously, it's not going to do that right now. I can click it and it's not going to do anything, or I could leave it unclicked and it won't impact that part at all. See here, there's that. And now I'm gonna bring down the height of these. And this is not what I'm doing this current second is probably not the most ideal way to do this. But I don't think I drew that handle. The sketch for that handle, I didn't draw that right. Or maybe not right, but not the way I should have done it. But that's about how a lot of my stuff goes. Which is why there's way too many features in a lot of my stuff. Which is why I don't show my timelines. Alright, there we go. Actually,
I mean, seeing the process and seeing how you think about it, it helps a lot.
that's up to there, and then I'll go through mirror that. Right there. And a lot of times when you're mirroring like parts, you don't have to do that reapply. Click that reapply or I guess it didn't show up. Oh well if I do no, why is it not showing the reapply? Maybe that's on I think that's if you do a feature, it makes you reapply it. But I think that looks like that. So now I'm going to go through and hide that sketch. So that should be all the sketches hidden. And then I think it's on to just adding all the radius, which you can do a radius in a sketch. So let me open a sketch up real quick. You can do a radius, or they call it a fillet, up here, and you can choose corners and do it up there. I like doing it more as this command up here for adding radius. So you just click all the edges. I should have probably done that before I mirrored the part, but
Is that sort of like a curvature?
yeah, yeah. So
Or when you
just
say radius?
it adds. So when I say radius, it just adds a radius to it, and so you can adjust that radius right here. So that 0.05, because I think I did that earlier. You could up it to like 0.1. It might, yeah. See, it doesn't like 0.1 because 0.1 causes it to intersect the points. So I'll probably just keep it at 0.05 because that looks pretty good to me. But I'm gonna go through and add that to a lot. Okay, see now the reason that one showed up red is because if it adds that radius, it's gonna bring that radius down past this point right here, and that's going to cause some sort of error or something like that. So I'm actually going to hide that right now because I do want that 0.5 radius. Add that there. And one to the top. Let's do like 0.02 or something. Add that to that edge right there. Add that down there. That's just going to go on all these edges. There. I think that's everything there. And then actually, I just noticed, did we do that circular pattern? Okay, I want to move that circular pattern past the fillet so that it does the radius pattern of that. And I'm actually, so this Boolean, or however you say that, it has options. It has union, subtract, or intersect. I honestly I don't know what that intersect does because I've never touched it in my life. But you have union and subtract. Union is going to fuse all the parts into one body. As you see, it took as well, if I did that and then do genuine, you could see it turns my part list from all those parts to one. If you do subtract, you can go through the subtract all this crap, but you can, let's say, choose this main body and then choose it as a tool. Let's say I want to subtract that from it. Well, now it subtracts it from that. But I want to do union, fuse all those together. Now let me hide that initial sketch. And bam, impact grenade. I think he did not like one of the shots I did. Did I not choose? No. Why did it not? I see something's going up because why are those radius disappearing? Finish. Oh, I think there's another body hidden under this. There we go. That's right, I mirrored it. So it must have mirrored the yeah, it must have mirrored that body. Yeah.
So now you're gonna apply the boolean to get rid of everything on that layer.
Yeah, so that's gonna go through. So you know how when I was doing those extrudes earlier, how I did them all as an
Separate object.
yeah, no, how I when I was doing the ones for this part up here, how I wasn't doing them as a separate object, how I was adding them to it. That's
Yes.
kind of biting me in the butt now, because if I go through and mirror, well, actually, it's not. Dang it, it was earlier. So that, well, where it's showing up with this separate object, this object 18, that is actually where I mirrored it. And what that didn't do is it's not taking that fillet in because I did that fillet on that first object. So what I'm actually gonna do is show off that subtract feature. So let's go to part one. You can also copy parts. So let's say I want to copy part one. Oh gosh, dang it, I didn't do what I wanted to do. All right, copy part one here, and that copies the part here as another object. I'm gonna go through, hide that part one, take that one up, and then I'm gonna go bootlegging, subtract tools. I'm gonna choose that one, target, choose that one. Oh, shit. Okay, let's run up path and do that. Subtract. Well, go back down here. Okay, there we go. And now if I had not done that first extrude as a new part or as a add, if I had done it as a new part, I wouldn't run into that issue, but I did, so we did. But now we have the impact grenade. As far as the base goes, you can color in this a little bit, and that if you color in this, it also exports it into bamboo slicer. So if you want to do like a multicolor print or something, you could do that. So I'll just show that off real quick because I only just discovered that a couple months ago, or yeah, a few months ago, maybe not a couple. But you can go through, click on the object, and then right click and go to edit appearance, and you get this nice color thing down here. So I'm just gonna go through, make it like this light gray. You know, the buttons are blue. So you can choose you can choose the individual faces of the object. Through that one. And then click it. And if you want to color a face, you add appearance to face. Like that dark blue. Like that. That one's yellow. Add appearance to face. And then that button up there. Shut that off. Then you got the impact. I actually didn't add it to that face. Now you got the impact grenade. And then I'm gonna do the split feature because just for shits and giggles, I'll add a dowel rod into it. So I'll add split. So for splitting, since I want to do it, I'm gonna do it on where the parts intersect. That way you have less of a seam as possible. I'll go through and do that convert feature on that line intersecting the two. And then I'll go through and do extrude. And instead of doing a solid surface, I'll do a surface. And I guess I'll grab that line right there. Is it shown? Wait, that's funny. It's not. What if I? Oh, because it's round. Gosh dang it. So you see that it's some faces, there's some face that just could not be used in the sketch. It does that if it's a round surface. And sometimes it wants to grab them and sometimes it doesn't. I guess right now it's not wanting to grab them. But I can actually go back up to that original sketch that we grabbed and do that from there. So I'm just gonna open that up, extrude surface, grab that, and then it's gonna extrude this surface. You can use a surface as a plane. You can use it if you're doing like surface modeling, um, which you surface modeling kind of deals with a lot more like complicated shapes, like big curves and whatnot, which is why I don't do it. But now you can see, we split it back into two parts. So I'll just hide that feature, do a sketch right here, do it from origin. And in this case, the origin of this whole assembly is the center of this part. Sometimes it's not. And then when you're doing a sketch and you want to add a dimension to it, you go up to this dimension tool, and then you can click on the part and you can see it brings me out with that leader. So I want to add let's say a 1-inch dowel. I'll do that. Well, actually, I'll do 1.1 so that we have that 1/10 of an inch of tolerance. And we'll go through, yep, solid. And then I'll show off another part of that remove command. With that remove command, you can, well, not even remove, just extrude in general. You have a bunch of options right here. You have direction starting off as symmetrical. If you want it to be symmetrical, second end position. So I'm going to go through and enable that second end position, which you can see now we have 2 meters on both ends. So that's going to let me move to I can't do section to the sketch, but basically what that's doing is it's extruding it in both directions. And if I go to add and then hide both these parts, is it not sure? Oh, hide those. Oh, because it's banned. You can see that it's going in both directions, and if I remove one, it moves the other. So I'm going to turn that on, and then I'm going to go. Yes, and go up to like right there, and it's kind of just eyeballing it, and then I'll click remove, and then this is where that merge scope. I'm gonna click merge with all, and that's gonna subtract it from both parts. If I only wanted to subtract it from one, I can click one, or I can click on both. I'm gonna click the merge all just so that it subtracts it from all, and then that way when I hide one part, now you have a that is not center at all. That is why you do that. Well, this lets me show off another feature. There, you have this whole taskbar up here of stuff in a sketch that lets you move stuff to a specific point. So like the concentric, I can pick an edge, pick another edge, and it will move those 2 points to a place. So that's what I'm gonna do for that.